Panasonic already has one decent 12-60mm lens, but now they made an even better one. New 12-60 is Leica branded, promising above average image quality and has bigger aperture, f2.8 on wide and f4 on telephoto end of the lens. Besides that, there are a few more but important differences. New lens has more aperture blades, full-time manual focus, and is slightly bigger and heavier. It also has mechanical switch for manual focus and image stabilization, which are absent on older version. That means you don't need to fiddle through menus to activate or deactivate them. Interesting fact is that Olympus had a lens with identical focal range and aperture when they produced DSLR cameras. I used that lens extensively 8 or 9 years ago and really liked it, as it was one of the best all-round zoom lenses ever made. It can still be used with adapter on modern Panasonic and Olympus cameras, but it's kinda big and heavy when mounted on most mirrorless cameras. The new Panasonic is a bit smaller and almost half the weight, so I was very curious how it performs. Build quality is excellent. Body of the lens is combination of metal on the outside and top of the lens with plastic tube inside. The lens is dust and splash proof. Lens mount is made from metal and has a rubber gasket around it for weather sealing. Weight is around 320 grams, what is very light for lens of this range and aperture in my opinion. Focusing is internal. Front element does not rotate nor extend when focusing. The lens only extends when zooming. Lens hood is part of the package. It has mechanically very well executed locking switch to prevent it from accidental loosening. It can be reversed, but that makes reaching manual focus ring quite hard when zoomed out at wide angle. Lens cap has pinchers in the middle of the cap, what means it can be removed when lens hood is on the lens. Zoom ring is smooth and relatively easy to rotate. There is no locking switch to prevent zoom creep, but this being very light lens, it doesn't need to have. I couldn't force the barrel to extend no matter how much I tried to shake it. 5x optical zoom doesn't sound as much, but is extremely versatile and covers proper wide angle all the way to slight telephoto. Most images in average everyday use are shot within this range. Stabilization is built in and works quite good. Still, maximum effect is achieved when used on modern Panasonic cameras which support dual stabilization mode. Both lens and sensor stabilization working together. I showed you this example in GH5 review, but here it is once again if you haven't seen it. As good as stabilization is for photography, it is groundbreaking for video recording. f2.8 aperture is available only at 12mm. Already at 18 it starts to fall off gradually until 50mm when it reaches f4 value. Sharpness is excellent in center at all focal lengths. It improves a little by stopping down at 12mm and again at 50 and 60, but I wouldn't avoid using large apertures in everyday use. Difference is not that significant. Corners are a bit worse and vary a lot depending on focal length. At 12mm it is good to stop down to f4 since there is visible difference. 18mm becomes better at f5.6. At 25 and 40mm there is no major difference, but 50mm shows visible lack of details wide open at f4 and sharpens up properly only at f8. This is definitely the worst focal length regarding corner performance. 60mm is once again rather good and shows no major improvement when stopping down aperture. In any case, resolution starts to fall off slightly at f11 due to diffraction, but is really visible at f16 and especially f22, a value I would rather avoid using. Anyway, it's a bit hard to judge these crops on YouTube since they were compressed when rendering video on my computer and once more on YouTube by itself. I publish them on my blog, so take a look at them over there since that should give you more accurate representation of lens performance. I tested for focus shift and found this lens doesn't suffer from it. Anyway, it's hard to even achieve depth of field shallow enough with this lens that would allow focus shift to exhibit. Now, two tests important for video recording. 12-60 does not suffer from focus breathing. Angle of view stays the same when focus distance is changed. Also, it appears this lens is designed to be parfocal. As you can see, focus stays in the same place when zoomed in or out. Chromatic aberrations are very low. I could see them but actually had to zoom 300% to make them really visible. Here is how the images look after it's been corrected in camera raw. Also keep in mind most cameras will already correct geometry and chromatic aberrations even in RAW format, but to what extent I cannot say since there is no way to analyze images without it. Anyway, if end result is good, why would anyone care? Barrel distortion is visible at 12mm but is not bad. A setting of +7 in camera raw was needed to counteract it. At all other focal lengths, distortion was so low, or it wasn't even visible to the point I would never worry about it. Light fall-off control is quite good. It is visible on 12mm but is not overly aggressive and easily removable in post-process. The more we zoom, the less vignetting is visible. It only gets a bit stronger wide open at 60mm but still nothing special. At most focal lengths, stopping down to f5.6 makes it almost invisible. Flare is usually not a problem on this lens. I shot a good number of photos directly at the sun trying to provoke it, and these are the worst case scenarios you see right now. Maybe it's better to show it in video. This is 12mm and this is 25. I'd say it performs the worst at around 25mm, but even then it's not that bad. With some careful framing you can avoid flare altogether. Bokeh is mostly pleasant, especially at 60mm with very close subject focusing. It can get a bit harsh on wide angle depending what is in background, but I'd say this is reasonably good performance. With minimum focusing distance of 20 cm through the entire focusing range and 0.3 magnification, this is by no means a macro lens, but still quite capable of getting usable close-ups. If you crop it 100%, some usable close-up shots are possible. With a 9-bladed aperture, this lens produces good-looking but not exceptional 18-point starbursts. Altogether, Panasonic made a really good lens. Optically, it's not maybe absolutely perfect, but it is not far from perfect either. Most notable weaknesses are flare in some situations, a tiny bit of chromatic aberrations, and light fall off at extreme corners but only wide open at wide angles. Everything else is actually surprisingly good. It is sharp, parfocal, does not exhibit focus breathing, it is stabilized, performs good at close-ups, has reasonable aperture and very useful zoom range, and on top of that only weighs around 320 grams, which makes it easy to use all day long even on smaller cameras. It is maybe a bit pricey at around $1,000 give or take depending where you live, but I think you actually get what you pay, and this might be the best high quality all-round lens for micro four thread system. That's all for this review. I hope I gave you usable information. If you have a question, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel for updates, and if you want to support my work, buy stuff on Amazon using my affiliate links below the video. You will not pay any more than otherwise, but I will get a small percentage from every purchase. Thanks for watching.